it's undeniable that Jacqueline Wilson's young readership is primarily female, and that is because for the most part her protagonists are young girls, and her readers can kind of relate a bit more directly to that. So when she writes from the perspective of a boy, it's really quite interesting. And I'm trying to think of the last time she did that. And I gotta be honest, I think this might be it. Buried Alive is a delightful story that I really thoroughly enjoyed. Not as much as Cliffhanger. I prefer Cliffhanger, which is the other part of this two-part series. But I did thoroughly enjoy this book as a child, and you know, looking back at it as an adult, I can kind of say, yeah, this is still something that I enjoy, and it's so refreshing for her to be writing from a young boy's perspective. I don't know if maybe this was a foray into trying to grow her readership to encourage boys to read her work, because regardless of the fact that her protagonists are usually female, the problems those girls deal with are generally something that will affect children of any gender or sex. You know, such as divorcing parents, moving house, leaving behind friends, things like that. So I do wish, you know, there will be boys who read her books. And if you're one of them, give me a shout. I'd love to know that and actually have that proved to me. But Buried Alive is certainly a bit more adventurous than her average book. So we have Tim, who is our main protagonist, and he has gone on holiday with his best friend Biscuits. I love Biscuits as a character. I think he's so interesting and so fascinating and so easy to get on with. And they both decide to go on holiday. Well, they go on holiday together, and they're having quite an adventure. But then they encounter a problem, and that's boys who are bullies. So obviously our message here is how to deal with bullies, and for the reader, of course, to feel like they're not alone. And you know, unfortunately, children get bullied all of the time. The fact that this is meant to be a fun holiday, a really pleasant setting, there are still bullies there, I think is something that speaks volumes in just highlighting how frequently children encounter bullies of any kind. And I think the topic's handled very well. It's beautifully presented. We have bits of their diaries throughout this, very well illustrated. Love Nick Sharratt, of course. Really interesting narrative, not the most well developed, you know, it's not overly intricate, it doesn't have too many twists and turns, and the characters are not so involved that you feel like you are best friends with them by the end of it, which does happen with, I guess, a lot of her later books. One thing about her books you will notice if you are new to her work is that they have definitely grown in thickness. The page count is basically constantly increasing with her work. This one, according to Penguin, is 160 pages, so it's not that big. I like it. I have fond memories of it. As an adult, I still have fond memories of it. Well, that made no sense, you know what I mean. I still look at the narrative, look at the characters, and think fondly of it, and if I were reading it now for the first time, I might not engage with it as much as I did as a child, but I can still see that it's very well written, very well told. I don't see, you know, there are people who debate that females shouldn't write male protagonists, males shouldn't write female protagonists. I don't agree with that. But certainly there's nothing in this to suggest that there would be a positive argument for that. Really enjoy it. I do prefer Cliffhanger, but once you've read one, you have to read the other, and it's an absolute delight. I really cannot fault it. Great message, very well written. Not my favourite of her books, but always one that I'm happy to recommend.